Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to the Moving to Cloud webinar. We'll get started here in just a little bit. We all know there's some people that join Teams meetings a little late, so we're going to let them take their time and get on here soon, and we'll get started. But while we wait for them, I always like to do, hey, what happened in this day in history for all my history buffs out there. So feel free to answer these in the chat, come off mute, whatever you want. But what happened on May 14th today in 1607? This is usually a test to whoever's the fastest Google person or to ask ChatGPT.
Bank of Genoa fails after announcement of national bankruptcy in Spain.
That's a detailed one.
Thanks.
But not right. It's going to be closer to where we are in North America.
Like they're disabled but not doing anything.
So it's going to be it's when the Jamestown settlers arrived in the Americas to establish the first British settlement. Another one that's going to be in North America based is what happened on this day in 1804. 1804. Anyone's ideas? Anyone's? That's going to be when Lewis and Clark departed to explore the Northwest. Now, another one here is for all my Star Wars fellow geeks out here. Who was born on this day in 1944?
George Lucas.
Yeah, there you go. Pretty much wrote the whole thing. So there, George Lucas was born this day in 1944. And then for more geeks out there like myself, what happened on this day? It was a big day for television in 1998. Anyone?
Seinfeld, last episode.
Last episode of Seinfeld. There you go, Joe. You got it. Awesome, awesome. And I've missed it and watched those reruns ever since. That's for sure. That's for sure. Well, we'll go ahead and get started here. Really appreciate everybody jumping on here. And this is very of the times to talk about movement to the cloud. And this may be, we got close to breaking the record for our most registered webinar that we're doing here at Davenport Group. So personally, that means a lot to me. So you're seeing the value in these webinars. And I hope you really appreciate everything that we're doing here today to present and educate to you. And really excited to talk to you about this. So let's get off. First, we're going to meet our presenters. My name is Ben Grimion. I'm a senior account executive here at Davenport Group. Been at Davenport Group for 13 years. But prior to that, I worked at Dell for 10 years and come with tons of experience. We also have on here with us Catherine Saunders, who's one of our newest members here at Davenport Group. Catherine, you want to introduce yourself?
Absolutely. Thank you, Ben. I'm Catherine Saunders. I'm the Director of Microsoft Solutions Sales at Davenport Group. Prior to Davenport Group, I held the same role at a competitor and did very well there. And I've also been in most of your shoes, having been in IT operations, software engineering, and professional services, as well as Microsoft sales over the years. So pleasure to meet you all virtually. Thank you.
And we're definitely happy to have you on our team now, Catherine. So really excited to have you as a part of the group. And I know you've definitely been impactful in the short time you've been here. So thank you for joining us here. Also, we have Evan Froelich from our partners at Arrow. Evan, you want to introduce yourself?
Sure. Thanks, Ben. Nice to meet you, everyone. My name is Evan. I'm a Azure supplier manager here at Arrow. Been at Arrow for 2.5 years now. I was in the Microsoft or worked at Microsoft out of the Tampa Bay office for a little while as well. And we're here to talk about Azure and kind of demystify the nuances and help educate and enlighten you on what the journey to the cloud looks like.
Awesome. Evan, thank you for joining us today. And I can't wait to hear about what you have to talk about. So let's, for those of you that are new to Davenport Group, I'd like to give a little brief introduction as far as who we are. We are that full IT solution, full scale IT solution provider. But what we've done recently is we're like, that's a very, very broad term to say. And what we want to do is kind of narrow it down. And what we were able to do is put it into these 4 major pillars as far as what we do. The first one being infrastructure. That's what you've known us to help you out with for the customers that are on here. We've helped you out probably with a data center install or client machines, or maybe moving to the cloud, any type of infrastructure. We've helped you out with that in the past, and that's always going to be a core of what we do. But we've also broadened our capabilities around cybersecurity, all the way from having like a specific point product or solution that you're needing, like firewall or end user education, into all the way where we can almost be your security team to help you with all your cybersecurity needs. We've also expanded our cloud applications capabilities. And I know that a number of folks that are on here, we've helped move from on-prem Exchange to a hosted Exchange in O365. But we've also have the capabilities to do way more than that. Any type of cloud application that's in there, especially under the Microsoft tenants, we're able to help out there tremendously. And we've had a great growth this last year. Heck, I'm going to say the word, I'm going to say AI. We've helped customers definitely implement some type of AI solution in their environment, whether it's an AI chatbot to help answer questions or whatever comes to your mind when you think about, hey, can we take advantage of some of the advantages of like a Copilot or Copilot Studios out there. And what's always been great about us is we've wrapped all 3 of these, 3 of those tenants or pillars down into our managed services capabilities. And that can be where we can fully manage those solutions for you that we implemented, or we can do it in a co-managed capability to where you really just have kind of a co-pilot to help you out with any type of needs that come up from a managed services capability. And I encourage you, if you're needing help in any of these 4 major pillars that we can do, I encourage you to reach out to us and help you out with that. But today, we're really talking about moving to the cloud. And that is something that is definitely top of mind with a lot of people, especially with the state of the industry right now. So what are we seeing right now? We're seeing constraints on, really IT hardware globally on pretty much everything. Mainly, we are seeing it restrictions around memory, SSDs, and processors. And you've seen the result. Prices have been absolutely skyrocketing. I've been doing this for 23 years and I have seen nothing like it. And I know it has been very, very hard on budgeting. It's been hard on kind of long-term planning that's out there, but we are here to help as much as we possibly can and educate you and your leadership on what you can do to circumvent these crazy volatile times with pricing. Another thing that's happened in the industry has been the Broadcom acquisition of VMware. Now, this happened years ago, but we're seeing the real effects of that happen over the last year and into probably the next 2 years of Broadcom's acquisition, raising the price of how Broadcom is consumed, but then also just the elimination of a lot of the licensing that's out there. We've had to adjust. We've moved customers to Hyper-V infrastructures, but we've also moved a lot of them to the cloud. And that's why the cloud is more attractive than ever, moving from where we all thought probably we would be like 10 years ago. We thought, hey, everybody's moving the cloud. Everybody's moving the cloud. I really feel 2026, 2027 is going to be that reality is going to set in to where most small, medium, large businesses are going to push a bulk of their workloads into the cloud. And so that's what we're covering today, because I know it's on your mind. I know it's been on your executive's mind for a long time, and you've said like, hey, it's going to be too expensive. Hey, it's going to be, it's not going to work. But I'm telling you here today, it's going to be a great solution for you to move to and may actually save you money. So let's talk about the realities and where to get you into a right mindset when you want to move to the cloud. Number 1, you're going to need a solid internet connection. And that not only is going to be good bandwidth, but also resiliency. You need that level of redundancy with your internet connection because your connection, your user's connection to the internet is everything. And so what I've even recommended with some customers that have a lot of on-prem employees is say, all right, you're going to need 2 lines of internet running, one from the east side, one from the west side. So if one of those lines gets cut, you're up and running. Whatever your redundancy internet plan is, you're going to need that in place. Another thing is, hey, what do I do if the cloud is down? That's always been a concern for a while, but and something that I've already brought up with customers a lot, but there's cloud resiliency out there now. So you can build in that redundancy in the cloud. So if one portion of the cloud is down, you're still up and running as an organization. Another thing that you need to make sure and educate your higher ups or everybody in the organization is IT is no longer going to be like a capital expense in the way that it's been seen in the past, where you get new servers, you get new storage, you get new networking, implement that solution, and you use it for a number of years. But now moving to the cloud is going to be more of a operation expense. It's going to be that monthly bill. So you want to think, hey, it's kind of like a power bill from now on. You pay a power bill for your building that everybody sits in and works. The same type of mindset that IT is really going to become. And you also want to do things with your workloads to optimize them to run in the cloud. So, and that'll help get that monthly bill down. And that's where Davenport Group can help tremendously in optimizing those migrations from on-prem into the cloud and make your monthly Azure bill very, very inexpensive. And so what I want to do now that you have your mindset as far as what are the main points I need to think about before moving into the cloud, we're going to turn it over to Evan to talk to everybody about, all right, how do we get you there? How do we plan that out? So Evan, I'll let you kind of take it from here.
Thanks, Ben. So as Ben mentioned, we're seeing a lot of changes within the industry, costs going up and hardware constraints. And what we're looking to talk about today is possibility of migrating, modernizing your estate. So we're going to talk through how Azure can transform your business, cover the key benefits, what a typical Azure environment looks like, how the migration would work, and how we can help you get started with free assessments. So when looking at this slide, every business today faces, one or multiple of these challenges. So we got costs going up, complexity across, what you're managing today, aging IT infrastructure, and staying up to curve on the innovation. So the infrastructure limits growth. In a lot of scenarios we see today, how you are set up from an IT stack point can determine how you guys are moving into the future. And innovation's moving fast, and we want our customers to be able to keep up. When it comes to cyber threats, they're more sophisticated than ever. So we're seeing malware attacks, the phishing emails coming through. Want to make sure you're protected. And as I mentioned before, the IT costs are rising. So managing all this complexity takes away your time from what truly matters, and that's growing and focusing on your business. So moving to the cloud can help solve some of these challenges. When we're looking at AI, so that's a buzzword today, and I just got my AB 730. It's an AI business professional certification. I got it early this morning, just so I'm on top of the game, because Copilot, AI, all of that continues to advance very quickly. So when we're looking at how Azure helps empower your AI future, 75% of customers agree that the migration was essential to their AI adoption. When your data and apps are in Azure, you're 2 to 3 times more likely to innovate with AI than compared to staying on premise. So Azure gives you the foundation to take advantage of AI when you're ready. AI is still in its infancy. So Copilot, the ChatGPT, all these different technologies are still very new. And it's not something where it's a scare tactic where you need to get on the train now, but it's always good to be knowledgeable of the tools and technologies that are available. And when you're looking into modernizing your stack and the operations that you guys have that are somewhat wouldn't say mundane, but manual. How can we automate those processes? How can we innovate with AI and machine learning to move quicker? And Azure is a great conduit to that. So what does it mean to be on-prem versus in the cloud when we're looking at it from an overall business perspective? So what we see, and a lot of times, is that companies face challenges with AI. They're somewhat slower when it comes to innovating. There's legacy apps and databases that are siloed and have a lack of integration into the other technologies that they're using today. The security threats are a little bit higher, which today I think security, especially from a Microsoft standpoint, is one of the biggest focus areas. How do we maintain our security while we're performing our business operations, while we're managing this on-premise environment, while not raising the cost super high? So with the cloud, makes your organization more AI ready, more agile, and the protection is there. Microsoft security is in the top right quadrant of Gartner for a reason, and we're able to optimize resources more easily while keeping a steady and close eye with the help of Davenport Group on the financial side of it. Here are some data points on the measurable outcomes that companies are seeing based on surveys that Microsoft has produced. So companies are seeing 43% time or faster time to build, test, and deploy new features, 478% faster response to business changes. I think that one's the key. As we're seeing in organizations, payments, overall business flows, things are moving very quickly, especially to maintain a competitive advantage. So you want to be able to deploy apps, test things, try things out with an infrastructure that allows you to do that. And 69% more time returned to the business to focus on innovation. And I think that a lot of customers today are kind of rinse and repeating from prior years. Hey, we've been doing it this way for a long time. If it's not broke, don't fix it. But when we're looking into, hey, our priorities are starting to shift. Our ROI and our budget needs to be addressed earlier on in the year. How do we move quicker? How do we go forward with this? Azure is not just about technology, it's about directly improving the speed, efficiency, and your ability to compete effectively within your respective markets. Business case for Azure. So regarding, or not regarding, depending on what position you have in your company today, there's going to be different benefits that you're going to be focusing on. So the people that look at, hey, we're looking at finance, we're looking at accounting, we're looking at payables. The economic benefits and the financial benefits of Azure, lower cost per server. It's a elastic scalability. That's one of the biggest benefits. So we can scale up and scale down with that pay-go model. You're only going to be billed for what you're consuming. So it's not like an M365 SKU where it's, hey, it's $50 a month per user, and that's going to be a flat fee. You can spin things up and spin them down, test them out. You're only going to get billed for what you utilize. And what that does is it provides predictability to what your billing statements are going to look like. And from the indirect benefits, that's more of the, hey, well, what does this look like for our IT teams? What does this look like for our marketing teams? It gives you that business agility and the ability to identify where can we grow the business? What's holding us back today? Is there something that we've been doing for the past couple of years that we haven't really dug into, and there's actually a better way to do something? So optimization is a key point, and there's some customer quotes highlighted in this slide on Microsoft customers that have done exactly what you guys are doing, either on-prem to hybrid or to the cloud. Microsoft definitely has best practices when it comes to the modernization and digital transformation into the cloud, but every company has a different use case. Every company has a different need, a different setup, a different goals and plans. So leveraging these different benefits can help paint that roadmap for you. So what your Azure environment may look like. If you're already in the cloud and you still have, if you're kind of in a hybrid position, you probably are familiar with kind of what this landing zone looks like. But think of Azure as like a pre-configured secure foundation for your cloud. So it comes in with built-in enterprise-grade security, compliance guardrails, and best practices from day one. So customers who set up their cloud foundation out of the gate properly migrate 4 times faster. And Davenport Group and I will help you with that from the start, from A to Z, from assessment, understanding, moving forward, what does this look like, and making sure that the tailored approach is based on where you guys are today. So the picture there, it's a platform landing zone. So that's going to include some identity, which is your IAM, some policy controls, some monitoring to govern everything in the environment. How do these applications sit on top of that foundation? Each app uses, some shared services like networking, security, cost management, monitoring, while having its own resources. So a lot of the most common things in Azure are, hey, we're spinning up some virtual machines, some VMs. Hey, we need some cold storage or warm storage. What do those controls look like? Again, every customer is going to have a different environment, but just want to give you kind of a sample of what that may look like.
And we've even, Evan, we kind of talked about this story. We even had a customer that had an old in-house built application that came to us and said, like, hey, we want to move to the cloud. However, we got this dinosaur back here and we need it to be running in a cloud native environment. We actually helped with the development and making it more a cloud native application for them. And then we were able to also, they're international, we were able to replicate that application across the world, utilizing the cloud across the world and helping them out and just improving overall performance, because they had some users in Europe, Africa, South America that were they were all coming back to the on-prem. And you can imagine that was taking forever. Now we've got cloud VMs of that modern cloud application running all over the world, and they couldn't be happier as a result. And that's something that we were also able to help them out with.
An awesome customer success story, pal. Love to hear it. And this is, kind of touching on this as well. So with a partnership like Davenport, they're there with you every step of the way. They're going to give you recommendations and suggestions, and they're not going to say, hey, here's a plan, go for it. They're walking you through step by step so you feel very comfortable in your digital transformation. And what does that look like? So the migration journey, best practices from Microsoft and Davenport's practices are 3 phases. So one is going to be assessing your cloud environment through Microsoft based assessments, and we're going to touch on those in a little bit, but this isn't something that you do overnight. The migration is it's a long-term plan, it's a medium-term, it's just not a short-term plan. This is something that we take into consideration when developing your roadmap and getting a really good understanding based on the assessments. Where are you guys at today? What do you have spun up? What are you managing? And how can Davenport kind of take some of that off your shoulders? The second is the migration. So, migrating the workloads, following Microsoft best practices and everything that we've had our capabilities, which we've done time and time again. And then third, once you're in the cloud, how do we continuously improve your environment? How do we optimize the resources that you have deployed? How do we manage your overall cost? This is a proven cloud adoption framework that's helped thousands of organizations, and Davenport it's great at this process. So the shared responsibility model. So when you're on premise and just taking in this picture, this is a shared responsibility. When you have a partnership, that's what a big key of that means is, hey, there's going to be things that you guys are going to be responsible for, and then there's a lot of things that Microsoft Davenport Group and that we're helping you with. So when you run your own IT data center, you practically own everything. That includes your server, your network, security, applications, data. As you move to the cloud, that responsibility starts to shift. So you're no longer doing everything on yourself, which I'm sure the IT people on the phone are like, oh, yeah, that sounds great. So in this partnership, each party is responsible for different parts of the stack. Whether you're going through IaaS, PaaS, SaaS, depending on what you need and what you're looking to deploy, Microsoft can take care of some of the physical side. So hardware, core infrastructure. Davenport Group supports what does this architecture look like? What are the best practices? How do we manage this going forward? And you still are owning what matters most. So you guys have your data, the users, the identities, access, and permissions. Of course, this can be joint. Everything can be shared, but this is just a really good depiction of where the responsibilities start to shift. And it's not moving to the cloud doesn't remove your responsibility. Definitely, that's why there's still some blue squares there, but it shifts the areas where each party is strongest. You know your data, you know your users. Davenport, we know the cloud. We understand how to manage this responsibly. So this shared responsibility model is a good thing to keep in mind when looking to move into the cloud. Next, so these assessments, these are going to be key for your IT transformation journey. So Microsoft offers multiple different assessments depending on what you're looking to get out of it and depending on what you're using them for. So 3 solution areas from Microsoft. These change a lot, but these are kind of the new hot topic ones. We have AI in 2 of them, which tells you something. So that's security, threat protection, data security, rapid security. These are assessments that you guys can leverage, work with Davenport Group to get an idea of where your vulnerabilities are in your environment today. Cloud and AI platforms, you see the Azure A next to that. So that's a benchmark TCO, total cost of ownership. What is this going to look like? And then what is the best solution to move into the cloud? We're going to show some insights on these assessments in a little bit. And then AI business solutions is modern work. So you got your M365, your O365, kind of those core business suites, and then some of the add-ons included in there. A lot of these are going to be focused on security, but there's also dark to the cloud, which is, on-premise to the cloud, some Copilot master classes. But, again, it's really, really important to lead with this assessment, one of these assessments, depending on what you have today, so that everybody's on the same page. We don't want to say you can't prepare a migration plan without having a lot of information, up front, so that we're basing every action going forward on what that digital estate looks like today. So yeah, these are definitely going to be leveraged in future conversations that we have together. One of the biggest things that we hear is, okay, well, I got my data center, we're on-prem today, and I like something tangible. I like to manage it. I like to, hey, I can go there. You know what I mean? And what we hear a lot is that customers don't want to give that up. There's a solution from Microsoft called Azure Arc, and it's a way to manage all of your IT environments in one place. So most organizations don't run everything in a single location anymore. You might have some systems, on premise or in other clouds, or maybe even a little bit in Azure. But what that does is it creates complexity. So different tools, different platforms. Not everybody's trained up. The change management isn't always easy. So there's gaps in visibility and possibly security. Azure Arc solves that by bringing everything into one single pane of glass. So it lets you see and manage all your systems in a singular dashboard, applies the same security and policies across everything that's in there, and it gives you one consistent way to monitor and control your overall environment. So even though moving to the cloud, there's some things, of course, it's a little farther away. It's not something that you can touch. again, you don't have to move everything in Azure. This isn't a conversation to say, at the end of this, let's all go to the cloud immediately. It's an education, enlightenment. Hey, these are what your options look like. These are some tools that you have. This is what this looks like, and it is a journey. Lots of customers say, hey, let's test this out. Let's go hybrid for a little bit. Want to make sure that it makes sense based on your use case. So, Azure comes to you and helps manage what you already have, and behind the scenes, it connects your existing servers, systems in Azure, so everything's managed like they're part of your cloud environment. Slide's a little busy, but overall, Azure Arc solves a lot of the feedback that we were hearing previously about moving into the cloud and kind of losing the feeling of control. This is Contoso. If anybody's ever seen any Microsoft presentation, they always use Contoso. I think now that I'm looking at it, if anyone ever played Halo, I think it might be Contoso or Cortana, something I'm thinking, but that's what they use for all of their samples. So this digital estate is a snapshot of the infrastructure and everything mapped out from a migration plan. This is what you have today. Again, this is just a kind of a demo, a sample environment. But what this does is it illustrates, different layers of this assessment. This is only one piece of it, but what does your current infrastructure look like? What kind of apps do you have? What kind of workloads are deployed? What is your security and compliance posture? What's your overall readiness? What is this cost going to be? So this represents different ways that Microsoft will assess your environment before migration. And this way, nobody's guessing. This is a clear representation. Hey, we launched this assessment, we analyzed the infrastructure, and now you can build a tailored plan to your environment, not a one-size-fits-all approach. So depending on how many servers you guys have up, what's your modernization, your AI readiness, these things are going to come into play on, well, what enablement do you guys need? What training? What are some of the gaps that we have? What are some of the call outs that we need to look at? Did someone have a question? Yeah, overall, this is a really important piece. And this is just a snapshot of one of 20 some slides that will be presented to you guys after an assessment is complete. So once the assessment is complete, what do you guys walk away with? So we have a clear inventory. What servers, apps, workloads exist? What's critical versus non-critical, prod versus non-prod? A readiness overview. So what can move to Azure right away? There are going to be some things in the environment that move to Azure really, really easily. And you can kind of click a button. Snapping the fingers might not be that easy, but clicking a couple of buttons and moving things into the cloud, the assessments are going to give you insights into that. Hey, if you guys are looking to test something, this is a non-critical workload, and it's kind of an easy button move into Azure. We can start there. What changes or modernization suggestions are there? What are we ultimately looking to get out? We're moving to the cloud, but what's your goal from a modernization standpoint and an innovation standpoint? The risk and gap analysis is going to be really important. So what are the security gaps? Are there any compliance concerns? Is there anything we need to button up before these projects take off? And any dependencies that need attention? And of course, Azure Arc is in the bottom right corner there. So all of these different pieces are coming into one output of the assessment, and a cost estimate is going to be included in that. So what is the right sizing? What does the core reduction look like? What is the SQL consolidation? So the migration plan overall, we're looking at what can move first, what stays on-prem, what goes hybrid, what goes to the cloud. Let's put together a timeline and approach. And Davenport, you guys have done a good bit of this, right?
Oh yeah, we've done a ton of this. And the way that I like to envision this for those folks that aren't familiar with moving to the cloud, think of this as like us running live optics on your on-prem infrastructure and doing that analysis. Same type of piece here with the assessment that Evan has been talking about here at the end. And this is some great info, Evan. I really appreciate it. Reminding everybody, if you have questions, feel free to put them in the chat, or just feel free to go off of mute and ask away. And we'll have questions at the end if you want to save it till then. But what is it, once we've done this assessment and come up with all this solution here, what does it kind of look like? All right, I want to get some numbers behind this. We know we can move to the cloud. We see all the advantages there with the assessment. What does it look like? So what we do from there is very similar to how we scope out a project for an on-prem. What you'll see there is we'll have a scoping call. We'll review what services you want us to do because you've worked with us before. You know we'll do as much or as little services as you want us to do. And this is the output that you'll see with the next slide is really, just very simple line items delivery. Madeline, can you go to the next slide? Perfect. So this is the output of what you're going to see. A very simple Davenport Group quote, where we'll have in there the 24/7, 365 Microsoft Azure support brought to you by Davenport Group. That's kind of an annual subscription on there. And then just our one line item Azure project to move you to Azure. And underneath that, you'll see what we deliver is what your estimated monthly cost is going to be from Davenport Group. We would be your Microsoft CSP. The bills would come from us on a monthly basis, and that gives you a good description. It's like, hey, here's what our monthly cost is going to be. One thing I also want to highlight here is Davenport Group, while we're setting you up, implementing it, training you on it, we also always stand behind our solutions 100%. As your Microsoft CSP, we are your frontline tech support. So the folks, the engineers that you trusted for years, or you can trust when an Azure install, those are the folks that you're going to reach out to if there's any type of issues that come up. If a ticket needs to be opened with Microsoft, we're going to open that with you and help escalate those tickets along the way. But I'll be really honest with you, we really haven't had a lot of tech support issues when it comes to customers that have moved to Azure. I've spoken with a number of my customers that we moved to the cloud over the last year or so and said like, hey, would you ever go back? And all of them are like, no way would I ever go back. This has just been a fantastic way of operating, fantastic way. And they've just seen the value. Also, their internal users development or any type of test dev or anything like that, those users now have the ability and resources basically to everything within Azure. And so they're able to spin up whatever type of development, whatever type of instances they want to test out, and then shut them down. And that's all you pay for. You're not having to build an infrastructure for them to test out anymore. They can just build it up in the cloud and shut it down in the cloud really, really quick. So let's talk a little bit about, all right, we got to the quote, or we did the assessment, we got to the quote, what that looks like. Let's talk about, all right, we're moving forward with this. What does our migration services look like? We're going to do another kind of assessment or plan of your migration. We're going to plan it all out so you understand not only how it's all going to happen, you are also going to make sure you understand if there's going to be any downtime, any type of expectations you need to deliver to your users and to the rest of your organization. I have another funny story here. We moved a customer, one of their most critical applications at one time. We moved them all to the cloud, but this application was key. It was so key to their organization that they even brought on somebody that was going to be a project manager specifically for this move of this application from on-prem to the cloud. That project manager came to the first kickoff call that we had with our engineer and said, all right, let's start putting the plan together. Here's my diagram of how I want to build out this plan. Here's the template. Here's how I want to do this. And it was really funny. Our lead engineer on the project said, shared his screen and said, you mean like this? And had everything all planned out with milestones, everything lined up there. That's the level of engineering you've seen from Davenport Group. And that's the same level of engineering you'll see if Davenport Group moves you to the cloud. In fact, that project manager used that same document that our engineer built up and handed that to his executive and said like, hey, here's how the project is going. I'm leading this project. He kind of took a little credit for that, and that's all well and good because ultimately the project was successful. That's all we want to make sure that everything gets done and gets executed the way that you want it. We'll also do things like cloud environment optimization. To hit on something like that specifically, you may have a virtual machine running on-prem that has a SQL database in it, SQL server on there. Rather than move that virtual machine from running as a VM on-prem to running as a VM in the cloud, I'll go up here with the cloud, run it in the cloud. It might be better to run that SQL as an application in the cloud. So like SQL as a service. And that is one of the very easy examples of like how you can optimize your cloud, your workloads to run in the cloud. And I hit on this earlier, we're going to be your ongoing support at Davenport Group. So if you have issues, if you have questions, anything, that's when you reach out to our team to help out with any type of ongoing support that's needed. So with that, I think the next steps are chat with your leadership about what you learned about today. We do have a recording of this presentation and webinar that we can share. Just reach out to your account executive that will be reaching out to you. If you want a recording and just share this with others in your organization. But if you're ready to go and start getting an assessment together and start working on some of the things that we presented on today, reach out to your Davenport Group account executive for a cloud readiness assessment. Catherine and Brad and the whole team there is ready to help you out with this. They are geared up. They're also hired up because this is going to be a big part of what we do in the future is moving customers from on-prem to the cloud. So we're ready to help you out with that. And also remember, it's not all or nothing. You know, we can start with some baby steps here. We can move some of the applications up there, let you get familiar with how that's working. As you start to migrate off of on-prem and into the cloud, we want you to feel comfortable. We want you to feel educated to manage and maintain this environment, but then also know that you have a reliable partner in Davenport Group to help you out whenever anything is needed. So I recommend you reach out to us to help you out with that. So let's connect from there. So if you do meet with us in the future, oh, do we want to open this up to questions? Great. We can, I'll pause here for a little bit and let's have some questions if anybody's got any. I'm assuming we have a bunch of folks that have questions, maybe want to come off mute and ask away for either me, Evan, or Catherine. Anyone? Evan, I've got a question for you. So have you spoke to any customers like post move? I know I have, but have you spoke to any customers post move and like how that experience was and got any type of feedback from them?
Yeah, it's a great question. It's something I do every day. You know, Azure is definitely it's a big beast when you're looking at it from a bird's eye view. But the customers that work with great partners like Davenport Group that have a trusted relationship, not just kind of like a transactional relationship. One, they've seen reduced cost. Two, they are now moving into AI. So the automated processes, leveraging Copilot, moving into the cloud. And three, they have a better understanding of all of their available options and what their data estate looks like. So, you know, we speak to customers every single day and it's positive reviews. There are going to be some learning curves associated with moving to the cloud. There's going to be some things that, you know, the IT people and different people through the organization are going to learn through the process, but that's growth. You know, they're always happy at the end of the day that they began on this journey and the future is definitely more clear.
Yeah, and if you've got developers on your team that are begging for additional resources, anything like this is fantastic. I mean, they unlimited out there. So we have a question here. So how are the clients handled? Are they part of the assessment scope to determine if machines are still domain joined versus Azure AD joined? Evan, I'm not sure if that's something as far as how the access is there. I know we set up a VPN connection from where their users are at, and that's how they typically connect.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I mean each assessment is different. right? Each assessment's going to have a different purpose and check out different things. So whenever we're looking at how are the clients handled and the scope, Microsoft does have some leniency and flexibility. If you have a specific ask throughout it, this assessment isn't, hey, we're going to deploy it. Here's the insights. See you later. There's Microsoft engineers that are assigned. So any of those kind of specific questions, is this in scope? Is it out of scope? There will be sessions ahead of time to discuss anything that you guys are looking to get out of it, making sure that one, the assessment is the correct one and the results that you're going to gain align to what you're looking to accomplish.
Yeah, know that Microsoft wants to help you get this migration done. They want you to run in their cloud. They're wanting you to utilize their service. And Davenport Group obviously wants you to help you out and move to the cloud if it's the right decision for you. That's where we come in and help out tremendously to go over what specifically are you looking, what's your goal in moving to the cloud? Is it decreasing costs? Is it improving resiliency? Is it improving innovation? Like whatever that goal is, we're going to help you get there as a part of the assessment, but then also on the actual delivery and what you're trying to do.
Absolutely. Great question.
Yeah, perfect. If we don't have any other questions, we'll talk about, hey, what are the next steps? Reach out to your team. That you have a Davenport Group account executive that can help you out here. We'll be following up with you, each and every one of you that's registered and attended this webinar. And if you meet back up with us to talk about cloud migration, to talk about Azure or anything else that I mentioned, even in the 4 pillars there at the beginning, we want to thank you for that time. And so you'll be entered in a raffle to win a DJI flip drone, which looks pretty cool, especially with the mountains in the background on the picture there. But we'll definitely love to talk to you about wherever you're needing help, because simply that's where we're here in this chaotic, volatile IT world. We're here to really help you navigate whichever way is going to make the most sense for your organization. So I encourage you to set up time with your account executive and meet up there. But for attending today, we also want to thank you. And so we'll be sending you over a Snack Magic credit or a Grubhub credit via email in the next 3 days for attending this webinar. So really appreciate that. That is it for our presentation, and really appreciate everybody's time today. I want to thank you all for paying attention, listening to us today, understanding that moving to the cloud is much more of the way to go, the way that we see to go in the future. And we know that you have an extremely reliable partner and dependable partner and capable partner to help you get there. Evan, Catherine, and myself will remain on here for a little bit longer to answer any additional questions that might have come up. But really appreciate you all today for joining on here. Thank you very much. So Evan, you talked about how you have followed up with those folks that you've moved to the cloud. I followed up with a lot of mine, and yeah, they couldn't be happier. And they've also what's really been fun for them is they've got all these things running, and they don't have to like keep things up and running anymore. So they're just trying to tweak things and optimize those different workloads to make their bill go lower, their monthly bill go lower, and really just trying to make things run more efficient. So that's been the fun thing that they've actually helped innovate and help drive more performance for their organization.
Yeah, I mean the cost optimization tools and the ongoing management, that is kind of the fun part, right? Because when you're on-prem, you don't have the same visibility, the same opportunities to cut costs. This hardware costs this much, the running, the maintenance is this much. There's really not many places to cut, but when it's in Azure Arc or you have it on that really pretty management platform, it's like, hey, we can spin this down. Oh, we might be able to tweak this, change this uptime, whatever it may be. There's a lot of parameters for it, but yeah, it's fun. And the IT person are like, so happy we don't have to maintain that full data center anymore. We're actively looking, hey, how can we bring this to the cloud? Because it makes people look like heroes at the end of the day if you're cutting costs and identifying those opportunities to optimize. Yeah, a lot of good stuff.
Especially if you have like a very broad user group too. Some people work from home, some people work overseas, some people work at an office, all that stuff. It even makes that even easier. And everybody has the equal access, pretty much, their internet speed, as far as access to those applications and workloads. So for those that have hung on here, any questions that you'd want Evan, me, or Catherine to answer?
Must have done good.
Must have done good. That's good. Well, it's a lot to soak in. I know that. And so appreciate everybody listening today. Appreciate your time today to listen to me, Catherine and Evan. Know that you've got your account executive and they'll get Catherine involved to help with any of the initial conversations. And we'll work with Evan and his team as far as the assessments. But know you've got a true partner in Davenport Group to help you move to the cloud when you are ready. So I want to thank everybody again for your time today. Y'all have a great rest of your afternoon, and we will talk to you soon.